Welcome to another scriptural study. Yes, another scriptural name and etymological scriptural word study. In fact, these scriptural studies originated in this very room behind me. And we started a family assembly with 3 young children, both my wife and I, which was unbelievable. It was a pleasure of total joy. Our older boy is releasing a book on the name of the Father and of the Son for children. He is having his first child with his wife very soon. And he always enjoyed the law studies, and his skill sets in regards to bringing out the detail from a Berean standpoint is enjoyed to this very day. My younger boy, David, and again, all my children now are 30 and above, he was excellent at asking questions. So the early years, in the early 2000s, the starting point of the proposed scriptural study format came from that skill set that he had very early on. And then, of course, our daughter, Catherine, Elizabeth, all about joy and compassion. Keeping that balance in the scriptural studies has been nothing but advantageous. And of course, my better 3/4, Palu, of almost 35 years now. So starting off in a family assembly setting was excellent. And as the time went on, back again in the early 2000s, our Berean friend from Jamaica, him and his wife, used to visit and really helped with a book called Come Out Over My People, Dr. C.J. Coster. We will be ever thankful for his skill sets and the countless hours of how to use a library. We started off with books well before online resources. And then, of course, David, our Berean friend, very close by from the Muskokas. And then, of course, as we got into the mid-2000s, closer to the 2008 time period, to Wayne, our Berean friend from Seattle, who introduced us to prison work in regards to sharing scriptural studies with documentation. Well before the online, we would send scriptural studies on paper to those environments, which was very rewarding. And the reciprocal learning back from those folks who were striving to become noble Bereans as well was very enlightening. And this time period with Wayne led to international connections in other assemblies, which continue to this day in Australia, Asia, the Middle East, all through Europe, North and South America, Africa. And we still don't have connections in Iceland and or Greenland, but the connections are growing to the point that we're just under 100,000. So all from this very room with 3 little children in a little family setting with my better 3/4 and I. So as we move into this name study, this is where it originated and has been nothing but a continuous improvement of joy in regards to the striving to become noble, to become fully Nazarene, restored, if you will. So please enjoy this latest name and etymological scriptural word study. So yes, let's together as one once again test and prove all things from a Berean standpoint. Because we shout out, Hallelujah, praise YaHUaH for the names Abishua and Melkishua. Why? Because behind every name, we understand that names have power and words have meaning. So as Bereans, we study them from an individual letter standpoint and word standpoint. As always, please feel free to stop the video at any time to further focus on these 2 scriptural names and the backup evidence from a scriptural etymological word standpoint. So hallelujah for the name Abishua, because Abishua is a Hebraic name, which literally means my father is rescue. My Father is deliverance. My Father is salvation. So when you say the name Abishua, you're doing two things. You're acknowledging that the Father YaHUaH, our Father of lights, the only self-existent one, delivers. And it also means in the term Shua, as we've covered so many times, to cry out to the Father, the Almighty Father of lights, for your deliverance. Abishua was an early high priest of Israel, Yashrael. Abishua is mentioned in the books of 1 Chronicles, the book of Ezra, as the son of the high priest Phinehas, son of Eleazar. As such, he is the great-grandson of Aaron. Yes, that one that was consecrated on New Moon Day. And Aaron, as we know, was the brother of Moses, Moshe, and the first high priest. It is likely that Abishua was a contemporary of the Israelite judge Ehud and the Moabite king Eglon, which we get from this resource from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. And according to the famous Jewish historian Josephus and other scriptural sources, Abishua succeeded his father as high priest. When we go on to the online Bible Hub application and or resource, under the Strong's entry, Hebrew 50 or 50, Abishua, it tells us it's a proper name. It's masculine. It's a noun. It's a name, pronounced Abishua, which again, the definition is clear. My Father is rescue. Going to the studylight.org resource online for the very same entry in the Strong's, we get again Abishua. Abishua. Notice Ab, the Father, Yeshua, which means to deliver, salvation, and so forth. It comes from, again, H1, Ab, and Yeshua, from the Strong's H771. The Brown Driver Briggs resource states the very same thing. My Father is rescue, safety, deliverance, or is opulence, which, if you get into this word, means to become free, to become noble, to receive favor, to become favorable, to be fruitful in all your endeavors, to be profitable, to be wealthy, to have a wealth of information as it relates to your deliverance, your freedom from sin. So, as we get into this study with the H50 and we break it down into the very first root word of the name Abishua, A-B, Ab, means father of an individual, as we can see from the Brown Driver Briggs resource. Or number two, as in the Almighty Father of Lights, YaHUaH himself, the only self-existent one being a father of his people. And again, we get this from the NSAB translation or topical reference. And then, of course, number three, the Ab, the father, can be a head of or founder of a household, a group, a family, or clan. And as I just shared, I am the head of my family, my 3 children, and my better 3/4. And that head, that privilege of being a leader figure in a family, is something that is based on servitude. I serve my better 3/4. I serve my children. Love is not an emotion or feeling. Love, from a concrete Hebraic standpoint, as it relates to Ab, is to serve the household, the family, and our assembly, the clan, if you will. So very powerful word, Ab. And most people do not realize that it's not really Abba. Yes, in the renewed covenant, it is stated and written in that form, but in the original Hebraic, it comes with the 2 letters, which is a root word. If we get into this further, the second word, which is again a noun, known as Shua. So again, we really have to take a look at the Strong's entry as clarified in the NASB as Shua. And it's from H7768 in the original sense of freedom, When you go to the Brown Driver Briggs, it shows this independence from the world, being separated from the world. And as a Berean, striving to become noble, to become free, to become rich in the information that delivers us, and to share this in a generous and servitude manner. Again, it also relates to crying out to the Father. Perhaps a cry for help. So again, very strong etymology, giving us two understandings of crying out, let alone where deliverance comes from. The Almighty Father of lights, the Ab, the Father, YaHUaH. So again, if we continue on further, we cover this in previous scriptural study videos, why we're Bereans called noble. And this information from the simple name Abishua is enlightening. So if you have the time, take a look at this study, because our proposed scriptural study format comes from the name Abishua and Melkishua, as we will cover. So take a look at this. Shua, from H7768 in the original sense of freedom. Most people miss this freedom part of the power of the name of YaHUaH, the Father. Abishua, we cry out for our deliverance to the Father. And if we get into the theological word book of the Old Covenant, it verifies the very same thing with its derivatives. And again, the nice thing about the app studylight.org is that it gives you those references. And if you have a copy of this book, you can find that information on page 414. Yeshua means deliverance. Yeshua means deliverance. The Y is Yah, and then Shua. Independent, to become independent of this world or separated from it, to become noble, so that you become generous and you share this information with others. And of course, the derivative from the Theological Word Book of the Old Covenant, 929e, Teshua, deliverance. Yeshua, salvation. Teshua, deliverance. So very strong, because when you cry out to the Father for your deliverance or salvation from sin, you are quoting the psalmist in Tehillim or Psalms, chapter 34, verse 17 through 18, from the ISR translation, and I quote, "The righteous cried out, and YaHUaH heard, and delivered them, saved them out of all their distresses. YaHUaH is near to the brokenhearted, and saves or delivers those whose spirit is crushed." And if your spirit is not crushed in this world today, based on what's happening, obviously there are some challenges with that. Your spirit must be crushed with what's going on here today. The world is becoming ever more wicked as each and every day passes, as anyone can see. If you go to page 911, you get the 2348b derivatives. Shua, to cry. Shua, cry for help. So again, very plain, and why the Messiah Yahushua cried out to his Father for his deliverance as well. So this is a great start to the scriptural study, but there is far more. Again, the Brown Driver Briggs resource brings it home. To become independent, separated from the world, noble, of wealth in regards to opulence of knowledge, if applied, because this is rich information that can help deliver you, make you become free from this world, and a servant to serve this information as many as possible who are asking these very same questions. So 7768, back to the Bible Hub app. Shua, a cry for help. A cry for help. Shua. And again, it comes from 7768. Shua, it's a verb, and cry out, shout out, cry out. So very, very strong information, very, very consistent information for those that have the skill sets as a Berean to discern in full. So when you look at the whole word Abishua from the Strong's entry 50 and break it down a little bit, it provides some very valuable, wealthy information. So let's go a little further, because that's Ab, Yeshua, is right after that. Two names in one, with two meanings that come with Yeshua, deliverance, and to cry out, of course, all to the Father, Abba, as you will. So let's take this a little further, because when we look at the Ab, we're going to do a little review here. It's a root word, as in number 2, YaHUaH, as a father of his people. Again, or number 3, head or founder of a household, group, family, or clan, father of an individual. But let's focus on number 3 now, head of a household. And you can see the theological word book of the Old Covenant in entry 4a on page 5. Father, forefather. Similar, except that the bet, the Ab, father's house, may be rendered family. Again, aligning completely to the Brown Driver Briggs resource. If we go further on page 5 and 6, the noun Ab occurs 1,191 times in the Hebrew Old Covenant, plus 9 times in the Aramaic. Among the Old Covenant writings, that with proper nouns, again, a name is a noun, not an adjective, not a verb. So this proper noun, Ab, that employ the element Ab to the most famous scriptural individual written is Abraham. So let's take a look at that, because he was a head or founder of many nations. And we can read this in the book of Bereshith, or Genesis chapter 17, verse 5, in the ISR translation, and I quote, "And no longer is your name called Abram, or Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father." H1, Ab, the very first entry in the Strong's. Because I shall make you a father of many nations. Number 3, head or founder of a household, group, family, or clan, the family of YaHUaH. So as we go further into this Ab, it definitely means father. Abishua comes from H1, and then to Yeshua means to cry out to that father for your deliverance. This word means deliverance and to cry out. Again, a proper name, masculine, which comes with the word definitions etymologically, to become free, to be safe, to be rescued, to become noble, opulent, to become favorable, fruitful, profitable, wealthy. So if we look at this further, again, number 3, head or founder of a household, group, family, or clan, as we can see with Abraham. As we move forward into this study, you can go to the page 5 of the Theological Word Book of the Old Covenant, and again, same thing with Abraham, father of a multitude. So it's really cool information, and we've been studying this for years, as I shared from this very room here in the home where I reside. If you go to the Strong's entry H3443, this is where you get Yeshua, Yahshua, Yahshua, the Yod, the Shua, the Shin, the Wa, and the Ayin. 4 letters, and again, this is a root word, Yeshua, as you can see it pronounced right here. And it means, and as we know, there was no letter J until the 4th century. When you see Jeshua, this is obviously wrong. It's Yeshua, but it means he is saved, delivered, salvation. So again, a proper name. It's masculine, and it corresponds to the Strong's entry 3442. Yeshua. So as we move forward, how do we know it's Yah? It's like the English word yacht. It's very basic, and you can study this. And again, all languages, and some people say that Hebrew and Aramaic, being a consonant language, do not have vowels. Well, again, all consonant languages are audible with vowels. Take a look at the word Alabama. There are short vowels and long vowels. And the in Alabama is a short vowel. People don't use the long vowel for the city location, Alabama, or state. They use the short vowel, not the long vowel, the A. They don't say Alabama. They don't say that. So again, all languages come with short vowels and long vowels. So again, H3443, Yeshua, these 4 letters. So again, the Yod, the Shin, the Wa, and the In. So word origin, Aramaic corresponding to Yeshua and YAHUaH. So meaning deliverance and salvation. Proper name, a noun. So if you take a look at it in 3442, Yeshua, Yeshua, this is where we get the name of the Son. The Son came in the Father's name. We'll get into this a little bit. So most people take out the Yod, and let's talk about that as we move forward. Because this origin, Yeshua, 3442, comes from H3091. Let's take a look at that. Because H3091 is Yeshua, YAHUaH, YAHUaH. So here is Abishua. Notice the Yod is in the long vowel, E, Abishua, but here it's YAHUaH, Yah instead of E. So it's a proper name. It's masculine. It's the Son's name. And again, is related to deliverance, salvation, and to cry out to the Father in the word or name Abishua. YAHUaH cried out to his Father on the stake. Again, very basic. And as we can see here, YAHUaH, as we can read in the book of Yahuchanan, chapter 5, verse 43, YAHUaH said, I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. And he cried out to the Father. His very last teaching in the flesh on the stake before he died or was murdered, he cried out. It is a phenomenal teaching that the world rejects. And he cried out on the stake on the 14th day, which started the 3-day and 3-night count on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of the first month of Abib, shouting out, my Almighty One, my Almighty One, Alishua. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. So again, Alishua, H474, YAHUaH is deliverance. So when you cry out to the Almighty One, just like you're crying out to the Father, these names become so important in regards to striving to become noble. Again, we cry out. All righteous ones have to cry out for their deliverance. Why ignore this? And the more we do these studies since the early 2000s, the more we are finding out why people won't utilize this information. There is an ego. There is a hubris. There's a lack of humility. They won't share this valuable, noble, wealthy information. For your deliverance, you have to cry out to the Ab. You have to cry out to all, the Almighty One, just like the Messiah YAHUaH did, because the Father is greater than the Son. And as such, why the Son, Messiah, anointed one of YAHUaH, sits at the right hand of his Father. So very basic information, as we can see, because when you cry out to the Almighty Father of lights, YAHUaH himself, the only self-existent one, that's a form of nobility. It's a form of righteousness. It produces favor. And as we know, Messiah YAHUaH was full of favor in regards to wealth, of information on how to be delivered. So he is the example, the mediator to the Father. Why not follow his lead? As it states in Matthew chapter 23, he is our only teacher and our only leader. So moving forward into this study, This is very important to understand the connection between Abishua, you're crying out to the Father for your Yeshua, your deliverance. You're crying out to the Almighty One for your deliverance. These names are so consistent, why they're considered a source of wealth or favor, of righteousness, or a movement towards becoming noble, striving to become noble like Bereans do. Names are powerful. YaHushua, YaHushua, he cried out to his Father for his deliverance. Why ignore? Why reject this basic kindergarten information? It's there for everyone. So there's really no argument unless you have a desire to strive with the flesh. Ephesians chapter 6, you are supposed to strive with the principalities. When you allow iron to sharpen iron, you are reasoning with YaHUaH, the Father, the Almighty One. Most people incorrectly think that you have to strive with the flesh, meaning iron sharpening iron is amongst each other. No, you are supposed to reason with YaHUaH and the Son, who came in his Father's name, the Ab, the Almighty One. So again, very basic, but to this day being rejected. And as we all know, YaHushua, the Strong's entry H3091, comes from two entries. H3068, which is YaHUaH, the Almighty One of Yashriel, the proper name, the Father, the Ab, the Almighty One. And it comes from a second entry, H3467, from the Strong's resource, Yasha, which is a verb. It's not a name. So take a look at it. YaHsha, YaHsha. 3 letters. The shin and the ayin on its own is not a Hebraic word, not even an Aramaic word. It's not a root word. Some people are taking these 2 letters and making it a root. Yasha comes with Yah, Shah, to deliver. And very unfortunate, but it will continue on until the restoration of all things when the Messiah, YaHushua, returns. The one who came in his Father's name. And furthermore, if you get into this study, the actual term Shah is actually spelt, as we can see here, with these 3 letters. And when you read the book of Shemoth, or Exodus chapter 20, verse 7, to ensure that we do not bring YaHUaH or Yahushua's name to naught, or Abishua, or Elishua, or any of the names, it means to bring something to emptiness. Shah, vanity. It's very regrettable. And if you take the shin and 2 ayins, a root word, Shah, it means to smear over, to blind others. So let's not blind anyone of the name Yahushua, Abishua, Elishua, because he is our king. Yahushua is our king, which brings us to the word study of past scriptural studies. Why was Elishua changed to Elisha? Why was it contracted, shortened, taken away, if you will? And this study called Shua or Shah, shocking. If you have the time, please invest further study into those scriptural study clips. Because again, why take away from Abishua? We don't, do we? We don't say Abishua. Elishua is the original term for the Almighty One, to cry out to the Almighty One, to the Father. Yahushua, I have come in my Father's name and you do not receive me, and I called out to Elishua for my deliverance. So let's get into the king now. My king is wealth. Where does that come from? So hallelujah for the name Melkishua, because what is the reference to Abishua and Elishua, let alone Yahushua? What does that have to do with anything? Remember, when we cry out to Almighty Father of lights, the Father Ab and the Almighty One, the only self-existent one, named YaHUaH, we become noble. We learn what righteousness is, the action of love. Not the thought, not the emotion, the action, and we share that favor with others because we're generous. YaHUaH is deliverance, indeed. So let's take a look at the name Melkishua. Melkishua comes from the Strong's entry H4444. Notice again, Melki, which means king. Yeshua. Proper name, masculine, Melkishua, my king is wealth. Oh yes, the Messiah Yahushua is wealth indeed. Much favor was bestowed upon him, wasn't it? And he gave us that wealth. He was generous. And as such, he gave us these teachings as an only teacher would. My all, he called out to the greater one, the only self-existent one. Remember, this king was brought forth. So, very basic information. And we are going to continue to share that. And why wouldn't we? Why would we reject this? We would never want to reject this. We do not want to be known as having lack of ignorance or rejecting, which is true, this scriptural name backed up by the etymological evidence. So remember, this name Melkishua from the studylight.org verifies the very same thing. So it's from H4428 and H7769 to cry out, Shua, Shua. Cry for help, cry out. My king is wealth. Wow. Isn't that wonderful? So H4428 means king. King, these first three Hebraic root word letters. Yeshua, Shua, to cry out. So now you know why he is the mediator, the only one that will mediate and give us that direction to the greater light. He came in his Father's name, and he shared that name with all of his taught ones. Melkishua, my king is wealth indeed. He is my master of masters and the king of kings, and at the end of the 1,000-year reign, he'll hand over the key, so to speak, to the greater light, to his Father, where finally in future eternity, YaHUaH will sit on the throne that'll come down from heaven to the earth. And where will the Messiah Yahushua sit, the lesser light? At the right hand of his Father. So again, these studies are very basic. Words have meaning and names have power. Get behind the name of Abishua and Melkishua. We continue to call upon the name YaHUaH, our Father of lights, the only self-existent one, to keep and guard each and every one of us. And until next time, YaHUaH willing, may the Messiah Yahushua, our King of wealth, be in everything we say and do. Have a YAHsome day, everyone.